Hi everyone, it's Nikki here from Happy Hormones for Life, and today I want to talk about stress, as April is Stress Awareness Month. And we all know that too much stress is bad for us, and it's not the actual stress that's the problem actually, because we need stress in a certain amount. Stress can be really good because it keeps us alert and alive, and it saves our lives sometimes. The stress hormones that get released. But of course, too much stress is really bad. We know that. We know it can even, lead to chronic disease. It can kill us eventually. But I want to talk today about how stress affects your hormones, because I think there's a little misunderstanding or lack of awareness about how our lives and our lifestyles, and also what exactly stress is as well. So I'm going to touch on all of those things. Now, the hormone behind stress is cortisol and adrenaline, but I like to talk about cortisol because that's the one that can really disrupt things on a longer term basis. Now, cortisol is incredibly important. It keeps us alive, so we want it. It gives us energy. It's our wake-up hormone. It's the hormone that keeps us alive and alert and awake. So, we want to have enough cortisol, but we don't want to have too much, and that's where the balance is really difficult to achieve. Now, cortisol is released from your adrenal glands. And as I said, it wakes you up in the morning. It also wakes you up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And it keeps you alert during the day and helps to manage any dangers or threats that come your way. Now, in caveman times, that would be a lion attack or something of that sort, where your body would need to protect you. So your fight or flight response would kick in, and your brain would send a message to your adrenals to release adrenaline, which is that big initial rush, and then cortisol to keep you on high alert. Now, these hormones, what their job is to raise your blood pressure, to pump sugar into the blood so that your muscles and cells have enough energy to run or fight. And the other thing they do is suppress your other systems so that you've got enough energy for those things, right? So things like digestive system, immune system are not quite needed when you're needing to run from the lion. These days, not so many lions, but plenty of other modern day stresses like work, demanding bosses, grumpy husbands, kids, deadlines, traffic jams, money worries, the list goes on, right? And unfortunately, Mother Nature only gave us one stress response, and that's the fight or flight one that we've evolved to keep us alive, right? There is no other one. So our brains are amazing things, but they cannot distinguish between a lion attack and a perceived danger, like a traffic jam or whatever, right? So it's the same response. So the body reacts as if we're being attacked and we might die, which is great if you're actually being attacked, because that's going to help save your life, but not that helpful if you're just feeling a bit overwhelmed, right? So why is this one response problematic, right? Well, it's designed to be temporary. So once you've escaped or killed the lion, you can rest in your cave and recover. But we can't escape from our modern day stresses. It's unrelenting. There's no rest or recovery time, and that's when it can get problematic, right? Now, all that sugar that's mobilized for energy to run or fight from your source of stress, it's not being used up either. So unless you go kickboxing or run a marathon after work every day, all that sugar gets stored away as fat, and it's usually around the middle where it can be easily accessed. We've got 4 times more cortisol receptors around our middle area than anywhere else on the body, right? So that's because the body needs it to have quick access to that. Lastly, cortisol has priority over everything, right? When you're in danger, all your reserves are diverted to your survival mechanisms, and that means there's no energy for digesting food, absorbing vital nutrients, keeping out toxins, fighting infection, your sex hormones, so reproduction, your monthly cycle is going to be out, sex drive is going to take a battering, and things like bone health and muscles as well. Now, our bodies have evolved and adapted in many ways since caveman times, but our adrenal response is the same, like I said. The other thing we need to be very aware of is that stress is not just stress, busy lifestyles, and the obvious sources of stress, right? We all know that when you're feeling overwhelmed, you've got a lot on your plate, you've got emotional stuff going on, then that's the obvious source of stress, stuff we care about, right? But there are other sources of stresses that on the body that we might not be aware of, and these can include things like physical stresses, so pregnancy or injury or surgery, digestive stresses, so foods you might be sensitive to, or infections, chemical stresses like toxins, dietary stresses, so like alcohol, sugar, food, chemicals, that sort of stuff. And then, you know, lifestyle stuff like lack of exercise, smoking, or lack of sleep. So those are all lots of sources of stress that could be raising cortisol in your body without you having a stressful life on the outside, right? So there's that to be aware of. Now, what stress does to your hormones, right? So it takes priority. It's like the alpha male of all your hormones. It's the dominant one because it has to be, right? But what happens is the feisty four take a bit of a battering. So I'm going to talk about thyroid. So when stress is prolonged, this can really affect your thyroid function. Now, thyroid is all about metabolism, right? So when we're low in thyroid, we feel sluggish, we're exhausted, we have brain fog, memory loss, we put on weight easily, we get sluggish digestion, hair comes out, nails, skin's bad, PMS, mood is terrible because your brain's not functioning right. So cortisol has a really important role to play in your thyroid hormones. So when your cortisol's out of balance, can really, really affect your thyroid. Now, insulin, when cortisol raises blood sugar, insulin is needed then to come and take it out of the cells to use as energy, right? So the more insulin around, the more fat storing. So cortisol, insulin, very much linked. And then estrogen, which is your other feisty four, is your main sex hormone. Now and progesterone, they work together. So you need a good level of progesterone to balance out the effects of estrogen, especially during perimenopause. And cortisol and progesterone are made from the same mother hormone. It's called pregnenolone, right? So when the body needs lots of cortisol because you're under a lot of stress, progesterone gets sacrificed. And that can leave higher levels of estrogen in your system, which can result in things like PMS, bloating, breast tenderness, heavy or painful periods, and of course, increased risk of fibroids, endometriosis, and the nasty breast and ovarian cancers, right? So how do you know if you have a cortisol imbalance? Well, if you feel stressed, then you know that that's going on, but that's quite an easy one. But you know, that's feeling wired and overwhelmed and things like that. But you've got other symptoms like brain fog, mood swings, cravings, when you're waking up at night, sleeping, and you've got those thoughts racing around, low libido, poor sleep, as I said, you know, waking up exhausted, frequent colds and infections, that belly fat around the middle, that's a key one as well. So there are lots and lots of symptoms associated with a cortisol imbalance. But it's, you know, always worth getting tested. We do cortisol tests quite regularly. They're just saliva tests, and you can really tell how your adrenals are functioning. So we do these pretty routinely. But I want to talk about solutions because you can tell from your symptoms if your body if you're feeling, you know, stressed, your cortisol is likely to be out, but also if you've been through stressful experiences of your body, actually, you know, from traumas or surgeries or pregnancies, just having kids, your cortisol is likely to be out. So how do you deal with it? First thing to do is to manage your stresses. So identifying them first of all. So everyone has different stressors. So looking at different sources of stress, if you have gut issues or you're sensitive to foods, that can be a stress. If you have an underlying infection, if you're getting lots of infections or colds, things like that, and also your lifestyle and what's going on in your life. And then really either try and minimize those sources of stress, but also the one thing you really need to do is to manage them if you can't get rid of them, right? So start to say no to stuff. Ditch some people that might be stressing you unless they're your family, which is a bit tricky. But also, you know, really putting yourself first, so switching off. Now we need to basically counteract that fight or flight response, and getting into rest and relax mode more often. We just don't have time or prioritize ourselves enough to do that on a regular basis. So we really need to start to do that on a daily basis. It's not just going to a spa on a weekend or having a holiday. This needs to be daily because our stresses are daily. So we need to counteract them on a regular basis. So just 10 minutes of deep belly breathing or meditation or mindfulness, or just sitting quietly in the present moment, listening to some music or reading, getting out into nature. All of these things really help. Anything that gets you in that moment. So it could be just cooking or gardening, because that gets you into the present moment and stops you thinking about everything else. But things like yoga, Pilates, you know, gentle walking, whatever, all good as well, right? Sleep is your natural anti-stress remedy. So, you know, I deal with a lot of women who have trouble sleeping. So it's not that easy, I know. But if you do all the right things, you can really minimize your risk of having a bad night's sleep. So keeping your room really dark, getting out the artificial light, Keeping gadgets out of your room, because they're going to be pinging and distracting, and also emitting the lights. So relaxing before bed, so not checking your emails just before you go to sleep, or watching a really scary thriller. I watched one the other night and I didn't realize it was going to be so scary. I was literally wide ping awake for about an hour. So yeah, the news can do that as well, unfortunately. Having a warm bath in Epsom salts. If you can do that on a regular basis, that's fantastically relaxing, and it also gets you into some good magnesium, because that's another thing I'm going to talk about in a sec. And calming herbal teas can be really helpful as well, like chamomile, valerian, passion flower, that kind of stuff, right? Now, when you're stressed, your adrenals use up a lot of nutrients. So what do we want to be doing is putting back those nutrients to help your adrenals keep you balanced and producing the cortisol that you need, but not too much, okay? So we want B vitamins. They use up a lot of B vitamins. And we want to be eating things like oats and nuts and seeds and leafy veg and organic meat and fish and dairy. There's lots of B vitamins in all of those foods. But also, I'm going to talk about supplements as well, but you really need a good B complex that has the active form of B vitamins that just help you help your body if you are depleted in those things. Vitamin C, it also gets depleted very rapidly with stress. So you want a rainbow of fruit and veg. Bell peppers are, they are full of vitamin C, as well as your citrus fruits and your kiwis and your green leafy veg. Now, magnesium. This is one of the key nutrients that gets used up very quickly when you're stressed. And it's your relaxation mineral, so you want lots of it, especially before bed. So dark green leafy veg, nuts and seeds, brown rice, all kind of beans, avocados. Dark chocolate has a lot of magnesium, and often we're reaching for the chocolate when actually the body's actually wanting magnesium. So, and of course those Epsom salt baths, you can absorb it directly into the skin. Now, supplements can work quite quickly to restore adrenal function, but again, always check with your doctor if you're on any medications or if you have any health conditions before starting any supplements. But like I said, a good quality B complex with active forms of B vitamins, especially B5 and B6, really helpful. Vitamin C, magnesium, citrate or glycinate are the better absorbed forms. You don't really want to mess with oxide, it doesn't really do much. And then, there's some herbal adaptogens as well, which are really useful for resetting adrenals and supporting them. Things like rhodiola, ashwagandha are some of my favorites. But over and above everything is this self-care. And as women, we don't really look after ourselves very often. We're always at the bottom of the to-do list. We're busy looking after everyone else. But, like the airlines all say, put the oxygen mask on yourself first, otherwise you're no good to anyone else. So I'm going to leave you with that. And if you'd like more information, please go to the website. We have a free guide that you can download, happyhormonesforlife.com's free-guide, or you can contact us for a free discovery call if you want to chat about your own issues. So have a fantastic day, weekend, and I'll see you soon.